Hello, everyone. Welcome to Breakthrough, a show about mastering the mindsets of success. This show is very proudly brought to you by Leadernomics and Opeaklife. My name is Lisa Wong. I'm a transformation coach at Opeaklife and Mindvalley and a former anchor at ESPN. It's my vision to bring to you the stories of successful individuals and deep dive into how they build themselves to become the person they are. So you are inspired and committed to live your best life personally and professionally. My guest today wears many hats after spending nearly 20 years in the F&B industry, working his way up from bottom. The accumulated experience and knowledge led him to founding ShedWool, a company that combines AI, machine learning, and innovation to help companies optimize shift work and gain the best of their shift employees. He also sits on a few boards where he helps startups grow and scale their business. Aside from all that, he also connects people. Now, he's what you call a people connector. And that's a role we don't usually acknowledge, but people connectors are important. They help any person get connected. That opens doors to potential and opportunities. So I'm very excited to introduce my guest to you, Cory Warfield. Cory, how are you?
I'm amazing. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you so much for being on Breakthrough.
It's my pleasure.
So, Cory, it's an illuminating and inspiring bio that I've just described about you. Now, tell us how you started in your work journey. Give us a snippet.
Well, I suppose my work journey would start at like 16 years old at the Kellogg Business School of Management at Northwestern. Back then in the mid 90s, at least, I don't know if it's still the case, but you could work with alcohol in the restaurant industry if you were under 21, so long as you weren't taking money for it. And the students there were paying huge tuition. A lot of them were graduate students and executives, but they didn't have to pay for their drinks. So I was bartending at age 16, and I was waiting on them for lunch and for dinner. And at that time, living in Evanston, Illinois, outside of Chicago, being able to go to the university and hang out with these successful executives was really cool. So I developed an affinity for that, and I spent the next nearly 20 years working in restaurants. And about 5 years ago, I guess closer to 6 years ago now, I realized how painful it was in the restaurant industry not knowing when you were going to work next. A lot of the shifts were on call shifts. It changed every week. You would show up, they wouldn't need you. And I realized that they always had the data that could really help forecast who they would need and when. And if people knew when they were going to work, they might be able to have a little bit more insight or say as to when they worked and actually work when they wanted to, be more productive, deliver a superior experience to the guests, make more money for themselves and ultimately for the entity being the restaurant. And so it's like, why isn't anybody using data to help schedule in the restaurant? So I set off to start a company, and I did what every silly entrepreneur that doesn't know what they're doing did. I went to YouTube and I went to the library, right? So I read Eric Ries's The Lean Startup. I read Gabriel Weinberg's Traction. I watched Tim Draper's Draper U. I just really immersed myself in the startup world. And I met a guy that was great at coding. He was full stack. He and I worked on a wireframe, and we ultimately launched kind of an MVP to the market. We saw some traction with that product. I got into a kind of prestigious accelerator with that because we had proven product market fit. We had some early traction, and so we raised some money. We're able to use that to kind of build out the team, grow the experience, and ultimately that company raised about $800,000, substantially grew the team. I was kind of allowed to take a step to the side. So they brought in, some gray hair. This is before I started getting all my grays. And they made me the chief visionary officer, which means you don't do anything, but you also don't get paid much. And I was, I continued to stay on as a majority shareholder of that venture. But being a chief visionary officer at a company that doesn't need one really frees you up to do other stuff. So I started a couple other companies, helped a few other friends start companies.
We are
I ended.
experiencing a little bit of technical issue here. So now and again, we might just fade off and then we'll come back in. Just bear with us. Okay. Sorry, Cory, to interrupt you. Yes. And then.
Yeah, no worries at all. So then, I was able to spend some time on some other projects. So I helped launch a few other things, built a community. And ultimately, at the end of the day, what really helped me scale ShedWool when I was kind of still in that in that role and capacity was LinkedIn. I took LinkedIn really seriously, and I was able to evangelize and let people know kind of what I was doing and why it mattered. And we got fortunate. There was some legislation that was passed that made our product kind of more of a need to have than a nice to have for the restaurants. We touched compliance and things of that nature. So I would talk about that on LinkedIn and get the conversation going with some of the decision makers at some of our target, companies. So LinkedIn was really starting to jam for me, and I quickly became one of those people whose post was going viral every day, and the follower count was going up really quickly, and people started to want to know how to do that. So I was one of the first people in the world to have access to LinkedIn Live. I went live and asked people, what personal hashtag I should use because I'd created a few hashtags that people were using and that were, getting some traction on the platform, but none of them were personal for me. So someone in this live stream said you should call yourself Cory Connects. I said, oh, I really like that. I connect people with people and concepts and opportunities and funding, right? All these things. So I took that concept of Cory Connects. I launched the Cory Connects podcast that's now turned into a, partially funded and fully operable startup on its own. I'm just kind of doing the connection thing. And that served me really well. And I've been able to help a lot of people with that.
So before we come into Cory Connect, because that sounds very exciting, tell us, Cory, the journey to being seems like a very successful entrepreneur. Um, the way you describe it, I mean, it seemed you didn't have much trouble or challenges, or am I wrong?
Oh, absolutely wrong.
Okay, share with
Yeah.
us perhaps the top, the big learnings.
Well, I think one of the big learnings is that when you focus too much on raising money before you need it, it's a misappropriation of time, right? If we ended up accomplishing most of what we accomplished without funding, I could have probably gotten to market even quicker, scaled even quicker, and if I could go back and do anything in my life over again, I wouldn't change a thing because I love where I'm at right now. But if I had to counsel anyone else on their first startup, I always now tell people bootstrap as long as you can. The best investment is revenue in from customers. But right there were many months at a time where I wasn't able to pay myself. If we had X amount of runway and I needed to pay my team or needed to have some marketing capital. There were some times where you get so many different mentors trying to tell you to do so many different things differently that I was getting mentor whiplash. So right there were sleepless nights, there were foodless nights, there were at one point I had to work with a therapist because there was some concern about my mental well-being. And there have been co-founder fights. It's never great to have to fight or part ways with people, and so there have been a lot of challenges, kind of, a lot of ups and downs, but I think that's just par for the course.
So you kind of like you put yourself. It was a very resilient mind. How much time did you give yourself, and what was the vision here?
Oh, without any uncertainty, I spent at least 15, but more like 20 hours a day for a couple of years working on the first startup. You wear so many hats, and I was the marketing team, and I was the finance guy, right? All these things. Um, and it wasn't until I started working with an executive coach and learned how to really delegate, make sure that I really found the people that had passion for doing things. I don't like spreadsheets, right? So, you know, and there was a time when I didn't have resources to hire people to do that. So obviously that fell on my shoulders. But learning how to sell the dream, I think, was really important. And absolutely, like you said, the resiliency, this the dumb, the dumb luck of just not giving up. I think that was probably what ultimately helped us achieve the successes that we did.
Right. Sorry, Cory. I think we faded out and then we came back in, so we missed the part where you talked about the last.
The last what?
Yes, you were describing what was the biggest learning. Just the last that you were sharing, whatever that you were sharing. So we missed out, and when I faded out and we came back in. So thank you to all our viewers who are keep keep tuning in. Do you remember the part, Cory?
I think I was just saying that once I ultimately learned how to delegate, that was really a breakthrough for us.
Okay. All right. So you worked with an executive coach, and that was really helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now I know that what it takes to thrive in the current evolving landscape is what you're doing, and um, I know that you're doing something more exciting as well. But let's come to that later. So what you're doing is pairing machine learning, AI, community building, and listening to your customers. And Cory, being in the thick of the game, what can you share starting out with machine learning in the business that you are?
Yeah, well, I think, a lot of people mistake AI in general with machine learning. And there's once you get into machine learning, there's, even deep machine learning. So as kind of a frame of reference, what we're doing with my coaching avatar component of Cory Connects, we're putting together a framework so that the actual avatar can work with people one-on-one like a human being. And in order just to inform the model, we're going to need in the neighborhood of 1 million data points, right? So right now we have tens of thousands of data points. We're barely like a percentage of the way there. Once you have all these data points, they can start to actually, right, go back and kind of autonomously analyze historical data, real-time data, and right, it has to be where this avatar can understand other people that have thick accents or people that communicate differently. And, ultimately it would be great to have it be able to sign language and speak in other languages, but that all takes machine learning as well, right? So it's really, it's a, it's a order of magnitude where you need to have this engine that can process so much data and actually learn from it. And that's what makes things artificially intelligent, right? Just like a human being or any other organism that learns. Um, but there's a lot that goes into it, right? It's not, you don't just kind of set something free and see what happens. I think that's what, some of the old movies warned about. That's when the robots turn around and try to kill you. Like, you really want to have a very controlled environment that's just, very analytical, very data driven, and kind of starting to generate the data that you would expect to come out of that model.
Right. And let's talk about also your strength here in community building.
Yeah, I think, for me, it all kind of hinges around personal branding, around empathy, around wanting to support and uplift others, and kind of back to that whole delegation as well. With a community, if you're surrounded by a lot of people doing a lot of cool but different things, then if you need somebody that can do, some AutoCAD, or you need somebody that can do some financial modeling, or you need somebody that can do some SEO, you've got this whole community, right? You don't need to learn all of this. And in turn, the only way that if you do SEO in a community that people are going to know it is if you kind of share that and talk about it and put yourself out there as the SEO guy or the SEO girl. So I think it's all just about kind of, getting a lot of potential synergies lined up and definitely putting yourself out there so people don't need to guess or wonder what it is that you do. So I think, clearly articulated value propositions, and there's no point in 20 people that are all great at SEO building a community, even though it might be an SEO community, because how are you going to help one another, right? You're all vying for the same clients. But if you build a community around growth and you have some SEO people and you've got some, whatever it might be, some guerrilla marketers and some known personalities and influencers, then you can start to really level up together. So I think it's a really a factor of having a game plan and executing on it.
And the last part here, I'm going to combine that three a little later. How good are you, and what do you do to listen to your customers, Cory?
I found, well, how good am I? I'm really good, like incredible, right? One of my clients was the number one rising star on LinkedIn last year, according to their list. And I've got my follower count goes up by a couple thousand typically a day, but so do my clients, right? So I have a girl in Africa that started to work with me. She had 90 followers. She's now got 30,000 followers in a couple of months, right? I think it's been 3.5 months and she just hit 30,000. So, I'm very good. How good am I at listening to my clients? I'm really good at doing it, but I've learned not to, right? If when you my seconds are valuable, right? So when someone's paying me what they pay me for my time, the worst thing I can do is listen to them and let them talk. I have people that just want to tell me stories. Like, you're paying me $875 an hour, right? Like, save the stories, right? I think you telling me a story that you already know isn't what's important. What's important is me explaining to you that everyone's on LinkedIn to sell and to give them space or to talk with your audience, not at them, or right, like all the reasons that you would want to work with me. Let's get your headline perfect so that when people see it, they know how to do business with you and they're jumping out of their seats to do so. So I think, I'm good at what I guess what I've gotten really good at is actually qualifying my clients, right? If someone just loves to hear themselves talk, I don't want to take their money. I don't want to work with them. We're not going to get the results that I can boast. But I'm great at talking. I am great at listening, but I'm getting, especially when I'm in a session with a client, I'm getting really good at getting them to say what they need and distill it down so that we can move on and make the sessions as productive as possible.
Right. So as I gather here, Cory, ShedWool, how big is ShedWool in your life right now, taking up your time, or this connector coach? It's a bigger part.
Yeah, I think without going into too much detail, the connector and the coach is a much bigger part. Like
Okay.
most of my identity and time at this point.
Right. So you get paid for coaching people on LinkedIn to build their connection in their network. Is that how it's say?
Yeah, and really to
Okay.
build them into these internationally recognized thought leaders in their space. So I've got people that literally are, growing by hundreds of thousands of followers, getting millions of views. And, it's not about the vanity of getting the views and the followers. It's about how do you convert that social capital into actual, qualified leads that convert into revenue. But I'm happy to
Right.
say, the clients that I work with have now done millions of inbound revenue on LinkedIn in under a year. So we're jamming.
Can you give us perhaps a rundown on how this works and perhaps some strategies as well?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think the one concept to understand is that LinkedIn is the only social media platform where everyone is there to sell something. And I get pushback on that, and I've never had anyone walk away from an intellectual debate on that without conceding that I'm right. Everybody is there to either sell themselves as a job seeker, right? They want a job, so they're selling themselves as a candidate. They're selling themselves as an employer or a job provider, whether they're a recruiter, an HR manager, or a business owner, or they're selling a course, they're selling a book, they're selling a concept, they're selling a widget. There's no legitimate reason to be active on LinkedIn if you don't have something to promote and sell. And that's not true on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat or TikTok, or I can go down the laundry list. It's only true of LinkedIn. So once people understand every single person is there with an agenda, it becomes a lot easier to navigate, right? Stop showing up and just talking about yourself. Nobody's there to learn. If people want to learn, they go to YouTube, they go to Google, they might go to a group on Facebook. People aren't going to LinkedIn to learn. But everyone's showing up trying to teach people something. Hey, let me teach you something. Let me tell you about your diet, about how you should sleep. Let me tell you about this and that. Nobody cares. On LinkedIn, nobody cares. So the few people that stop doing that stand out right away, right? The few people that start to speak with their audience and not at them are such a refreshing change of pace on LinkedIn. And so it really resonates, right? For me, what's most important once you kind of understand that it's not okay to show up and teach and sell on LinkedIn is to optimize your profile. So for me, anyone that I work with, the headline is the most important thing. My headline right now simply says, I create LinkedIn influencers. And as an example, last night I put up a post before bed. I woke up, it's got, I think, 50,000 views and 2,000 likes or something like that on the post, right? It's been shared a couple hundred times. Okay, cool. But what about that's 50,000 people that just saw Cory Warfield creates LinkedIn influencers. I think I had 10 inbound leads this morning, right? It's early in the morning here. I just went to sleep a few hours ago and I think I had 10 leads, right? While I slept, I woke up and there are 10 people saying, hey, I want to hire you to become a LinkedIn influencer. How does this work? So
Wow.
now what I'm not doing is I'm not taking a call with 10 people. I understand of those 10 people, maybe two of them can afford me, right? That's one of the reasons that we're trying to automate a lot of what I do to make it more accessible. So I let people know right off the bat, I'm very selective with whom I work. I am an investment. I'll only work with people for whom I can be a positive return on investment. And I don't, I'm not malleable, right? People can't come and tell me how we're going to do things, right? I won't work with a social media manager. I won't work with a marketing team. People can't show up and tell me that they don't post on the weekends. If they don't post 7 days a week, I can't help them, right? And so that's a really easy qualifier right out of the gate. Oh, and even if it's religious, God bless you, right? Go live that life. But I can't turn you into a LinkedIn influencer if you don't use electricity on Friday or Saturday. Or if your wife or your husband doesn't let you log into social media on the weekend, there's nothing I can do for you, right? So I'm done.
So,
I don't work with a social media manager because that's not personal branding, right? And so I've got all these qualifiers, but I think that to answer your question, and then I'll shut up, but that's the secret, is building your profile into something that can capture the right attention and get people wanting to do business with you. Can you imagine when people come to you already wanting to do business with you, you've won the battle,
right. Okay. So let's
right?
talk
And someone like me,
about,
I get to be as
yes.
selective as I want. And yeah,
Right. Now, I just want to
go
kind
ahead.
of get down to the juicy parts here. So you're talking about, okay, so posting 7 days a week seems to be one of the game changer here. Is that true? Do you,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah?
it's only one, it's probably one of 30 components of learning the algorithm
Okay.
and really working with it. But it is it's a make it or break it. It's absolutely foundational. The algorithm loves daily contributors. So if someone isn't
Mhm.
willing and prepared to do that, then, as an example, there's nothing I can do for them.
Sure, sure. Now, Corey, you talked about, LinkedIn is not a place to go and sell your products or your services. So let's talk about profile first. So in terms of profile, what would the strategy be? What would the mindset be here?
It's just right, like I said, with my headline, I create LinkedIn influencers is my headline.
Mm,
So now I just
mm.
need to get that in front of millions of people a month. If I get a million
Okay.
people a month to see that I create LinkedIn influencers, the people with whom that resonates are going to come to me. So with all of my clients, right, I have a lady, she quite literally, she's been with the TED program for over a decade. She's a public speaking coach, and she's gotten hundreds of people their TED and TEDx talks. So her headline says, I turn experts into um, something along the lines of I turn experts into internationally recognized go-to thought leaders by getting them on the TED stage, right? People on LinkedIn want that, and so all we need to do is get a bunch of people to see that, and the people that want a TED talk reach out to her, and they understand they'll have to pay her, and right, so she's turned that into a great traction channel, and then we use hashtags to become the URL. So she's now the number one Google result for speaker, TEDx speaker coach and things like that. But so it's really
Mm.
all this strategy that all kind of ties into itself and feed, different leverage points on the algorithm feed other leverage points. Once you learn them all, it gets kind of fun and easy.
Right. Now, one of the mistakes that people make when it comes to building their profile on LinkedIn.
I think just the hard pitch and seeming too thirsty and hungry, right? When you connect with someone, you don't need to tell them that you're on Fiverr, that your SaaS company can increase revenue, right? Like, let them find that out. Right? Mention it in some of your content and optimize your profile so that when they need whatever it is that you offer, they can come to you. I teach people not to do anything outbound. So when people tell me that they have an outbound strategy on LinkedIn, I tell them it's one of two things. They can either stop it right away and work with me, or I won't work with them. Right?
Mm.
There's no hybrid. I don't work with predatory. I don't work with annoying. I put my name with my clients. I go all in for them. So I'm not going to work with someone I wouldn't want to do business with. And I don't do business with people that are too pushy or, too salesy. So it really is, I kind of bring people into my world that see the vision. The good news is everyone that I've worked with is making money off of the process. So I'm very confident in it, but I'm also very confident that it's not for everybody.
Sure, sure. Now, when it comes to post, right, I have to take like just a leaf from your book, right, is to possibly look at what you have been posting, Corey, so for the last 1 year, and then take some tips from there. Now, when it comes to posting any stuff, what would you recommend? Perhaps give us some top three tips that are going to be useful.
So imagine if we go back to what I was saying that everyone's on LinkedIn to sell something. Imagine how
Mm,
stressful that is, right? If
yeah.
you're on LinkedIn trying to find a job, or you're on LinkedIn trying to find some leads, or you're on LinkedIn trying to sell some tickets to an event, that's stressful, right? So the few of us that show up and give people little 10 or 15-second mental vacations, right? A little laugh. Imagine if someone's on LinkedIn having a bad, stressful day trying to get a job or something, and I make them laugh. That's way
Mm,
more than just a chuckle, right? That can reset their entire energy. That can recalibrate them. That can give them whatever it is that they need to go out and do a better job prospecting, whatever that might be. So a lot of the stuff that I do is either just a little humor, a little kindness. The post that I put up last night, um, I don't remember what it is, some type of kindness, right? I basically said kindness still exists in the world, and that post will probably end up at 250,000 views and 10,000 likes on that post. What does that tell you? People like it, right? The algorithm likes it too. It showed it to a couple thousand people in the first few minutes, and that's how you get the virality. But people like that. If you're having a stressful day on LinkedIn and something makes you go, ah, or makes you forget about your stresses or your quota for just a few seconds, that's really powerful. Now that said, I posted about a company the other day that's reinventing the wheel, literally. They're using NASA material and there's no air in these tires, and they've taken some pretty good traction. They're on Shark Tank. Well, I like to work with Shark Tank brands, and a number of them have hired me as their LinkedIn coach. This company hadn't, and they still candidly have not, but I did a post about them. Both the founders reached out, said thank you. They both connected with me, and now I have rapport. When they're ready to get their LinkedIn game to the top level, they know where to come, right? I'll never pitch them. So that was a value add. I found a really cool video to go with it of this motorcycle that was extended. And I just talked about, how it's time to reinvent the wheel. People like that because on LinkedIn, everyone wants to reinvent the wheel for their own industry. But what I didn't say is, hey, let me show you something cool. Here's a company doing these things, right? I said something along the lines of, in your industry, what would the version of reinventing the wheel be? You see, that gives people room to lean in, talk about whatever it is that they're doing. And then I start talking about this innovative smart tire company as well. So it's really just a psychological strategy of giving people, some space, making people feel heard, and not coming across as being desperate or salesy at all.
Right. Okay. So let's say, Cory, I give you an example here, right? We have multiple people with different jobs on LinkedIn, all wanting to showcase a bit of their expertise. If I give you our production manager, our director here is Shasi, and then we have our social media personnel, Nidhi. Two of them come to you and say, Cory, I want to build my influence on LinkedIn. What can I do? Would you tell them to build something that's related to their job and background, or just go generic? Just go with what makes people feel good.
Well, no, because that would be a misappropriation as well, right? There's no benefit in showing up just to make people feel good if it's not going to make you money and get you sales. So it really becomes a nuanced strategy for a program manager. I'd encourage the program manager's profile to say something along the lines of, my programming changes the world daily, right? People care about that. Wait a minute, let me see how this person's programming changes the world daily. That's not enough. Now the banner, which is your billboard, needs to reiterate, right? I produce the breakthrough show with entrepreneurs that empower others. Okay, if you're an entrepreneur and you're looking for empowerment, now you might go check out the show because this guy says it's changing the world, empowering entrepreneurs. Okay, now you go down to the about section. If you're on somebody's profile, you want to know about them. And so many people do that wrong. It's either in the third person, right? Michael worked at this company. Michael's great at this. He's this is his personality type. This is his degree, and here's a link to his calendar. Nobody cares, right? It's got to be the why behind the why. But, I'm Michael, and when I was in college, I failed out of econ. I did so because I realized, right? And you start to tell a story. And so that's what I get people to do, optimize their profile so that it tells the full story, and then start to do content that's just going to bring people to your profile, right? So if you're the program manager of a podcast, what you don't do is do a bunch of content around program managing and podcasts because nobody cares, right? You just need to get them to your profile where it tells them all of that. So now you do these little, right? You can do a photo of a girl doing a triple backflip. Right. I did one the other day, and I thought it was clever because I was able to make the post itself read like the Olympic rings. And there was this really cool video of this guy doing like a double or triple dive off of the diving board, perfect form, and you can tell this guy's going to kill it. Right? He walks up, he's as confident as can be. He jumps, and then he does these flips and and then he just belly flops, and it's hilarious. Right? So I put that up, and I said, this is just last night, and I said, now the Winter Olympics are over, who's ready for the Summer Games? And it was, people absolutely loved that, right? Was that about growth coaching? Not at all. Did it get tens of thousands of people to laugh, smile? Yeah. Did it get a number of people reaching out saying, "Hey, I saw you create LinkedIn influencers. Tell me a bit more about that"? Absolutely. Right. So my post had nothing to do with what I do, got me way more inbound leads, and frankly made me quite a bit of money, way more than someone that would do a post and say, "Hey, I help people get," right. Nobody cares. Everyone that says they help people do anything on LinkedIn, it's a sales cycle anyway. And again, no one's there to be sold to. If you want to be sold to, you go to Instagram or you go to Google. So it's just how do you get in the right mindset and get that in front of the right people in a way that they're going to want to do business with you.
Right. I always heard this term, where people say it's all about giving value, and when people receive value, it's they feel appreciated. It's just nice.
Well,
There's a connection there.
I've been quoted a lot as saying that. I was saying that a few years ago, and I know a lot of people now talk about adding value, but I think it's misconstrued. Adding value is not showing up saying, "Let me tell you three tips that'll help you with your SEO." It's not, "Hey, pull up a seat and let me tell you all about what I do professionally." I see so many people whose content is literally like, you've read a few of their posts, now you don't need to hire them. They just told you everything that you would have had to pay them to find out, right? And there's an old saying, the game is to be sold, not told, but like those posts never do well. I see people that are giving tons of value on LinkedIn that have probably never made a dollar on LinkedIn. So to me, the value is how can I reset someone's energy? How can I make someone smile when they're having a bad day? How can I get somebody to feel heard? Right? To me, that's the value. To me, the value is not this new software that costs you $1,000 can help you with your pitch deck, right? I don't need that because I use Canva. Their pitch deck is amazing and it's free. And my pitch decks are gorgeous and I make them in a day, right? So why would I need someone trying to sell me $1,000 product? I don't. And so many people right in the sales cycle, a lot of it's the educational component. People need to teach you that you need something before they can sell it to you. I'm not there to learn anything. If I want to learn something, I'll go to the library or I'll go to YouTube. So I think it really is this, it's understanding the algorithm and understanding the psychology there.
Right. Can you give us a little bit of an insight into the algorithm, Cory, and help? Does it work with geography? Let's start there.
I mean, to a degree, it's kind of the concept of red ocean, blue ocean, right? You don't want to go in the red water because it's where, sure, there's a lot of fish there, but everybody's already eating, right? And you can't really see through it. And or if you think about noise, right? You don't want to be where it's too noisy. So if it's 8 a.m. in New York and everyone's posting at that time, I'm not going to post at that time because I'm competing with 10,000 other posts, right? How am I going to cut through? And everyone else is doing it. Then so I'm going to post at 4 a.m. So by the time they post, I'm already trending, right? When they're trying to get to the top of the news feed, they're hoping to get underneath my post because I'm already solidly there. So that's, but it's interesting when I talk about the algorithm, and I don't know if this is just my perspective, and I hope it doesn't sound inappropriate to some people, but I think the algorithm responds very much like a girl in junior high school, right? Like when I look back on it, the algorithm loves to be treated well and talked about and paid attention to. The algorithm loves to be understood. It doesn't want to be smothered, right? The algorithm wants to do what the algorithm wants to do. So if you just learn what the algorithm wants, right? Just like if you have a teenage daughter or when you're in junior high school, if you had a friend or as a guy, if you had a crush on the girl, you have to treat her a certain way, right? Same thing with the algorithm. Can't talk bad about the algorithm. The algorithm doesn't mind external links anymore. It used to, but now I can do a link to coryconnects.com or whatever it is in my post. What I can't do is I can't put a link to YouTube. I can't put a link to Google. I can't put a link to Facebook because if you think about the girl from junior high, right, she doesn't want the people to go talk to the other popular girl. Right? She doesn't want people to stop talking to her, stop paying attention to her. She wants all eyes on her. Same thing with the algorithm. So the algorithm will pick up on a link to Google and say, wait a minute, they're trying to get people off of LinkedIn onto Google? Nope. Literally, right? Because Google has the same dwell time as LinkedIn. They say if someone gets off of LinkedIn, goes to Google, they might spend the next hour there, right? That's an hour of missed opportunity for LinkedIn to realize revenue from those eyeballs and from that time on screen and from the data that they can garner. So it's really a matter of learning how to treat the algorithm, make the algorithm like you, right? Like, so I don't know if that was
And how do
helpful.
you do that? How do you do that? Because all I hear is I think it's for someone who is new to LinkedIn. What can you say to them that will really help them at least build a level of following that would be satisfactory?
Just showing up. You have to post every day. It really is that important. That's one of the algorithmic things is you can't just show up. Just like the girl in junior high school, you can't be her friend once or twice a month, right? She's not going to be friends with you.
So
You,
one
you
thing
got
is post every day
consistency.
and then consistency. And then what
Yep.
about the hours? So if you are living in, let's say, where you are you saying that, at the peak hour is 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. on a weekday and a working day? Do you do like 4 hours before?
Well, so it really depends, right? And this is where you really want to learn your audience and understand your sales cycle. For me, I have clients all over the world. I have clients in Australia and South Africa. I don't think I have anyone in Malaysia right now, but Indonesia, right? So for me, my formula is in my world, a lot kind of revolves around Eastern Standard Time, right? New York. So if I post, call it 4 a.m. my time, it's 5 a.m. in New York. Am I going to get a lot of the activity from people in New York? Not right away. But guess who's up? People in England, right? People in United Arab Emirates, right? Maybe if I post at 2 in the morning, I'm going to get people in Australia before they go to sleep, right? And so now I need to understand if I can get a post and have it start to trend in Australia, then it's going to start to trend in the UK and the Arab Emirates. By the time people are waking up in New York checking their LinkedIn feed, my post is the one that's been up for 3 hours with 10,000 views. It's going to go to the top of their news feed. So it's kind of like chess. You have to think a few moves in advance, right? If I want people from New York to see my post, I'm not going to post right when they're going to wake up because, again, it's too noisy, it's too crowded, and probably they're, trying to create their own post. If someone's trying to create their own content at the moment, the last thing they want to do is see somebody else's. And fundamentally, you can't even see it. It's a different screen. So it really is just, I mean, we don't have enough time on this call to go over all of the different leverage points, but I think it's just paying attention to the people that are doing it well. Although I work one-on-one with clients, I'd have to imagine that there are thousands of, if not certainly hundreds of people that have gotten great at LinkedIn just by watching what I do, right? There are people that will wait until I post and they'll post right away too, because they know that if I'm posting, it's the right time to post. Now, sometimes I'm trying to test the algorithm, so I might post at the wrong time to make sure the post will flop, and it usually does. Um, but so I think it really is just a function of paying a lot of attention to the people that you want to replicate. Also, the other thing that really is powerful is getting on the right radars of people. So I've had people that will, you know, share a couple of my posts. I may or may not notice that they shared the post, but that's an attempt to get on my radar. Well, these same people like my posts and they comment on my posts, and if you do that often enough with the target, potential, whoever it might be, persona that you want to be on the radar of on LinkedIn, eventually they're going to notice you, right? And so I say, what that doesn't mean is don't reach out and say, hey, Cory, I've been liking your posts on LinkedIn. Great, thank you. So tens of thousands of other people, but I appreciate it, right? Whatever. Instead, just keep doing that and let me come to you and say, hey, I've been noticing that you've been showing me a lot of support. Thanks so much. Let me know if I can ever be helpful, right? Huge difference. So I think hopefully there are at least a couple nuggets in there.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Cory. So let's round this up, Cory. If you can say something to the young Cory, what would you say?
Oh, I get this question a lot, and I think my answer I love, but it's somewhat ambiguous. It's just to love more. And I've gotten to a point where I want to love my enemies and my strangers and people around the world with different ideologies. And I think this whole world just needs more and more love. I've always been kind of a love centric guy, but I'd even tell Cory today, love more, right? There's always ways that people can love more in this world, and right, love nature, love the process, right? Love the environment, love animals. So I think just love more, and that's never the wrong answer.
Right. And one more, if you could reflect back and realize there is, well, a few ways or just one pertinent way to accelerate your growth to get to where you are faster, what would that mindset be and what would you have done?
for me, it's meditation, but I think really it's just making sure that you don't burn out and you don't lose zeal or passion for whatever it is that you're doing. So for me, meditation was the game changer.
Mm, okay. And do you meditate? How often do you meditate, Cory? What's your
I try to
regularity?
meditate. I try to meditate every day.
Okay. Okay. And finally, one enormous gem that you can share about your expertise here on LinkedIn, how you, this is enormous, how you help a person, this girl in South Africa or in Africa, grow her following from 90 to 30,000 in 2 to 3 months. Just one big gem that you can part with here for our audience.
I think, the gem would be she started talking with her audience, not at them, and she started showing up every day. I really think that is, although that's a slight oversimplification, I think that is the secret. That's all she did, right?
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Cory. I know that you're also very active in this in the space of metaverse and in the Web3 arena. So we're going to have you back someday to talk about this future
I would
where we're
love
all
that.
going to be part of.
And it might be me or it might be my avatar, but either way, it'll be it'll aspire to be smart and funny. And no, it'll probably be me, but maybe I'll bring my avatar like a puppet.
Can you show us your avatar, or is it going to be a secret at this point?
Oh, it's a little bit of both, but I don't mind showing it briefly. Let's
Yes.
see. This is me, and it should
Yes.
start.
And if you see the whole body, okay, love it. So it looks so lifelike.
And doing a
Wow.
little yoga before my meditation.
Okay. So what do you call it, Cory? Is that does it represent your real name in the metaverse?
Oh yeah, Cory connects.
Okay. Okay. And what does it do in the metaverse?
Coaches people, so it helps people grow on LinkedIn just like I do.
Okay. When we'll get to see Cory the avatar in the metaverse?
Very soon. So I have a team that's working on our entire metaverse. We're gamifying recruiting, and we've got a lot of fun stuff. But the first kind of entree to that, it's February, is March. Next month, we're dropping our first series of NFTs. So these are Cory cards. They're like playing cards and all. There's the King of Connection, and there's they even make me a woman, so I'm the Queen of Serene, and so there are these cards, and people can buy the NFTs, and they come with different utility, right? So if you hold the King, you're getting a bunch of shout outs from different influencers. You're getting coached by me every week, right? Even when I don't have time, and even when my price goes up, substantially, even beyond what it is now. So those Cory cards are kind of the first little peak of the avatar driven ecosystem. And then at some point this year, probably sooner than later, but there will be a Cory avatar that people can engage lightly with. But I think I mentioned either before we started or on this show, we need about 1 million data points behind this avatar to make it truly, able to take on a life of its own and be as smart as I hope to be someday. And so when will we see the fully smart avatar Cory coach? Probably late this year, early next year, but the avatar will start making some appearances much sooner than that.
Right. Is it going to be on LinkedIn as well?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Cory. All the best, and we look forward to having you back talking about this metaverse, Web3. Very exciting.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Lisa, and thank you for everybody that tuned in.
Thank you. So that was Cory Warfield joining us. Now, this show is brought to you by Leadernomics. Now, before I leave you, let's also take a look at areas and space where you can connect with Cory. Now, Cory has his own podcast, so check it out on Spotify. And as for myself, I'd like to invite you to travel to my YouTube channel where you can watch every episode of Breakthrough that we have featured throughout since 2021. It has been a pleasure hosting this show. The show is brought to you by Leadernomics and Opeaklife. I'm Lisa Wong, and I'd like to thank my producers, Shasi and Nidhi, and our team. And guys, be fulfilled, live a purposeful life, and we'll see you next time.